So I know I sometimes just go a week without posting, a week without doing anything. And usually I can chop that down to, oh, he's just on a hiatus, or oh, he's out of ideas. I have a reason this time. I have a reason I haven't done anything in a week besides yesterday where I uploaded 2 videos. And that's because I've been wanting to do this. Basically, you read the title if you clicked on it. I'm going to be reviewing every single pay-per-view main event, not card, pay-per-view main event in the last decade, which the reason I'm not doing, the whole card is because if I only do the main events of the last decade, it's still over 120 fights. So, this is the tier list. We're going to start with 2014, obviously the first one, and we're going to go in order. So, we're just going to hop into it. I'm going to give my breakdown on the fights. I'm going to give some of my opinions, and I just want to let it be known, majority of these fights I either haven't seen or I don't remember watching, so I just watched it again. So we're going to start off, Uriah Faber versus Renan Barão, first one. I've never seen this one. Oh no, this is the second one, my bad. I've never seen this one. And honestly, there wasn't much to this fight. Like, it was entertaining, it was back and forth in the first round, and in the second round, there just wasn't much to the fight. And, I'm going to be you guys are going to disagree with me on a decent amount of stuff. I'm going to be very judgmental on these fights. I'm going to be very hard at ranking them. And while this fight had a great build-up, honestly, I was actually really hyped for this fight. They did a great job promoting this fight. I'm just going to put it in good. I don't think it lasted long enough to be great. I don't think it was a war back and forth. It was a fight where, in my opinion, Renan Barão had majority of the control. And in the second round, he just finished him. I believe it was second round. By the way, I only watched these fights once. Because I can't rewatch every fight. I'm sorry. I'm not going to, rewatch every fight. Because I just can't do that. And honestly, so one thing I've known is Renan Barão, in my opinion, bantamweight greatest of all time. He always was for me. Even though I never really watched majority of his fights, I looked at his reputation and what he's done, and I was like, okay, he's the greatest of all time. But after watching this fight, I'm like, I understand why now. Like, he was just amazing. But I'm only going to put it in good because it wasn't a war. It didn't last long enough, in my opinion. By the way, let's just, if you're a little confused about the tiers, obviously instant classic, just a great, great fight. Just great. Good, alright, dumpster fire as in bad. I just say dumpster fire some random times, so I just say something's bad. WMMA, worse than dumpster fire, or just bad in general. And unwatchable. This is going to be saved for, I don't know if any single one will go in unwatchable, but there's just one in my mind that we'll get to eventually, and it just deserves the unwatchable. And I'll get to that eventually. But yeah, starting with January, Barão versus Faber 2, good fight, great finish, but that's all it really was. It was just a good fight. Ronda Rousey versus McMahon. This fight was not good. And the only reason it's not in... Actually, no, we're going to put it out... We're going to put it at dumpster fire. Okay, this one's weird, because, obviously, if you've watched the fight was only a minute long, but it was some of the lowest, skill set I've ever seen in MMA. It was Ronda Rousey randomly rushing forward, getting the shit beat out of her. And after watching this fight, you could see the holes in her striking even before the Holly Holm fight. If someone watched this fight and thought, oh, she looked invincible, amazing performance, yeah, she got a finish in the first round, but it was a bad performance. She got hit multiple times, almost rocked in the first minute. It was just very low MMA, just very low IQ, so I can't put it in bad. And the only reason it's in alright, the only reason it's in a saving grace is because it was a first round finish where Ronda Rousey got beat up for the first 30 seconds and then held McMahon against the cage for the second 30 seconds and she just landed a random knee. And then McMahon just gave up after that. It's a knee. It was a great knee. It was a really good knee, so I understand why she gave up. And the only reason it's not a dumpster fire is just straight up because it was a first round finish and I didn't actually have to watch it that long. It was a good finish. That's the only saving grace of this fight. Johnny Hendricks versus Lawler. The first one. I'm going to put this at instant classic. And the only reason... Because instant classic's gonna be like a lot. Like there's gonna be like not much in instant classic, to be honest. I'm gonna put this at great. Great fight. It was just I never understood the hype around Johnny Hendricks. I've heard obviously, oh, he beat GSP, one of the worst robberies. Oh, he was amazing, and I never understood it. But that's because I never took the time to watch Johnny Hendricks fights. I'm young. Okay, I'm young. My first introduction to Johnny Hendricks was hearing about him, and I'm like, okay, I want to see this guy fight, and the person he's fighting was Paulo Costa, and we all know how that went. I wasn't old enough to remember or even watch any Johnny Hendricks fights and understand what was actually going on. He's good. I should have done this so much earlier. He's good, man. And so was Lawler, but Johnny Hendricks has a way with boxing. Like he has a way with boxing and striking where he's like, okay, yeah, he's mostly a wrestler, but he gets a lot of knockouts. He's very strong, clearly on steroids. But the way he boxes, the way his leg kicks are so underrated. When people talk about leg kicks, they talk about Jose Aldo. Just people like that. Jose Aldo, I don't know why I'm blanking right here. But I never hear about Johnny Hendricks leg kicks. He did them so many times against Lawler. Good, fast, great timing. They weren't really fast, but they were strong. And his timing, the way he understood when to throw it was just amazing. Great countering. Johnny Hendricks is a dog. But the reason I'm putting this fight in great is because this fight was something weird, where it was like Johnny Hendricks won the first 2 rounds. It looked like he was going to dominate. And then Lawler came back, dominated in the last 2. And then in the last, it was 2-2 going into the 5th round. Johnny Hendricks came back. And this fight was just a slugfest. Brawling. The only reason it's not an instant classic for me is the fact that there was stalling. And one thing I will give Johnny Hendricks, he's not good at showing, or he's not good at hiding when he's tired or when he's hurt. He'll stall. He'll strip for your takedown and he'll stall. And there's pretty clear signs to show when he's hurt, and that's this. He stalled in the 5th round. He stalled a little bit in the 2nd, I believe. But for the most part, this was just an all-out brawl. Great fight. And I'm for sure I want to rewatch this one. I probably will after this. It's just 2 dogs. It's 2 people who are great wrestlers. Robbie Lawler, he didn't really take anyone down. However, he had amazing takedown defense. And it was just a back and forth brawl the whole time. This guy got rocked, and then this guy got rocked, and they both had their moments where they looked weak. And then they brought out the fire. This was a war, and it was an amazing fight. Jones versus Glover Teixeira. Hear me out. I'm moving this because while this isn't in order, I'm never gonna put Ronda Rousey fight against the John Jones fight. One thing I've always had this take about John Jones fights. Aside from 1 or 2 fights, his career is not that entertaining. It's really not that entertaining. In my opinion, he has one of the dirty strategies where all he does is this. He eye pokes you and then he just goes in for an elbow, and it's like he has the longest reach. He's the most physically gifted. It's not. He doesn't knock people out. He doesn't really knock people out. He doesn't really get knockdowns. I've always thought his career was one of the most boring to watch because you already knew it was going to happen. He was just going to out-physique someone, and he was going to threaten eye pokes and do oblique kicks the whole time. That's exactly what this fight was. Typical John Jones fight. Where he just out-physiqued Glover Teixeira. And one thing I will say, I'll give John Jones credit. It was fun sometimes because he would take the fight to Glover where he would be like, okay, you want to be in the clinch, you want to grapple, I'll grapple with you. I'll be in the clinch. I will dominate you in this position that you want to be in. And the elbows were great. It was a very entertaining fight when it was good. And it was only good around the late 4th and 5th round. The first 20 minutes, you can really just be like, okay, it was a John Jones fight. And when someone tells me, hey, it's a typical John Jones fight, all I think of is, oh, so he eye poked him and oblique kicked him. I hate John Jones' way of fighting where it's just threatening eye pokes, and you can't do anything about it because the rules literally stop you. I forgot who the ref of this one was, but the ref was like, John, close your fingers. You can't threaten to eye poke him. Even Joe Rogan said, it's a dirty way of fighting. You can't do that. and they never stopped him from doing it. So this was literally John Jones being like, okay, you come to me, you're gonna get eye poked. But other than that, I mean, John Jones, amazing elbows against the fence, great control over Glover, who, in my opinion, Glover was a guy who reached his prime way later on. However, he's still fighting for a title. So I'm just gonna put it on all right. I mean, it wasn't something I would be like, okay, I want to watch this again, because like I said, the first 20 minutes is just a typical John Jones fight. So entertaining to a point, but it's not something that I want to really watch again. I'm gonna put this in instant classic. Henan Barao versus TJ Dillashaw 1. I think this goes in instant classic. I know it wasn't a really close fight. It was mostly a TJ Dillashaw just beating him, and eventually you felt there was going to be a finish. I didn't feel like the finish would come in the 5th round, but I already knew TJ Dillashaw won this fight coming into it. It's one of the biggest underdogs ever, and man, he looked good. My whole argument for this being an instant classic is, do you consider Dominic Cruz versus Cody Garbrandt an instant classic? And when I say, yeah, I consider that an instant classic if it's a legendary moment. This is a fight I still hear about. Huge underdog win, amazing performance, domination, and TJ Dillashaw, he was amazing in this fight. Henan Barao had some moments, but never enough to really shift the momentum of the fight. TJ Dillashaw's movement, his striking, his something about these team alpha male guys is their movement is just they really revolutionized footwork, in my opinion. Maybe not revolutionized it, but everybody out of their gym had amazing footwork. He was all over the place, great stamina, great cardio, and no one expected it. So if it was an even fight, it would probably just be in good or great, but it's really the hype around the fight, in my opinion, where it's like, he's an underdog. No one really expected him to win. I think he was an 8-1 underdog. That's the reason it's an instant classic. And just the performance he put on against the greatest of all time at bantamweight, arguably, who was 33-1 at that moment, where he looked like he was just in his prime. Amazing performance. Moving on to Weidman Machida. I'm gonna be honest with you. I did not know this fight existed. I had no idea this fight took place. Apparently, this is Chris Weidman's second title defense, where, obviously his first title defense was Anderson Silva broke his leg. So this was like his legitimate win to a lot of people. And it was alright. I know it's in good, not alright, but it had its moments. It had its moments where, okay, Weidman feels like he was in complete control. This was a 4-1 Weidman performance. It feels like he's in complete control. You know he's going to win. But Lyoto, he had some moments. He had some moments late in the fight. I think 3rd round. No, not 3rd. Weidman won the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, in my opinion, and probably 5th. But Machida had his moments late in the fight where you're like, okay, this could be a comeback. He could finish him. It's Lyoto Machida. He could really finish him. And Weidman's tough. Something I really underestimated about Weidman was he can strike pretty good. He has great time. He's not fast. He's not the most athletic. But he's a big guy for middleweight. His wrestling's great. His striking's alright. Nothing crazy, but this fight, I would say it's good. I wouldn't... Nah, fuck it. Nah. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna put this one in alright, actually, because, everything I just described about it was just alright. It had its great moments, but in the late rounds, but I said the exact same thing for, John Jones Teixeira, so I can't put it against John Jones Teixeira when I basically just described it in the exact same way, because it's basically the exact same way. First legitimate title win from Chris Weidman. Good fight, like I said, it had really good moments from Lyoto. But it was one of those fights where you just... I mean, it was kind of forgettable, and nothing great really happened. And you always had a feeling Chris Weidman was going to win. After the 2nd round, it was very dominant Chris Weidman, so... Now these fights, man, I'm gonna tell you straight up, you don't... Unless you've tried looking for Demetrius Johnson fights, it's so hard to actually find these fights. This is I'm gonna put this in good. Mostly because Demetrius Johnson, this was a little earlier in his title reign. However, he's already been established. He's already been amazing. And I'm just gonna call him Baga because I don't know how to pronounce his actual fucking name. This fight was so hard to find. I'm telling you, this fight was very hard to find. And the reason I put this in good fight is because we weren't sure who was gonna win. Obviously, we came into the fight and we were like, okay, DJ, he's gonna win. It's Demetrius Johnson. But Baga did good. Like, there was moments where we've never seen DJ, even up until now, get taken down like that, get wrestled. Baga, he was up for the fight. He was up for the fight. He wanted to fight. He caught DJ a couple times. DJ caught him a couple times. But I think the thing that really separated them when it came to the decision was Demetrius Johnson. He could sustain his moments longer. You know what I'm saying? He could keep going longer, where Baga would have a good moment or multiple good moments, but he couldn't sustain it. It wasn't consistent. It wasn't enough to win rounds, in my opinion. And this fight was fucking brutal to watch just because it was so hard to find this fight. If any of y'all know anything that like helps me find these old fights, please let me know. Please. It's so hard to find old fights. But I mean, all things considered, right? Like, Baga was he was just really game. His wrestling looked great. He caught DJ a couple times on the feet. In my opinion, this is one of DJ's harder fights. Not hardest, because he's lost to Cejudo. Not at this point, but he lost to Cejudo. This is just one of his harder fights, in my opinion, and it was just a good scrap back and forth. Both guys had moments, and it didn't really. While there was a clear winner in Demetrius Johnson, it didn't really feel like either of them were way too far ahead to the point where they couldn't catch up. So I'll put that at good. This fight was also hell to find, but this was a short notice fight. I'm gonna put this in good. TJ Dillashaw versus Soto. This is his first title defense, and a lot of people thought TJ Dillashaw was just gonna run away with this fight. He kind of did. He kind of ran away with the fight. He was kind of winning like the whole time, but he got caught a couple times. Not the performance he said he was looking for, but great performance. And the reason this fight's in good is all because of the head kick moment where Soto just got head kicked, and it was the stupidest looking shit I've ever seen in my life. I'm not gonna lie to you. But I mean, it was short notice for Soto. I'm pretty sure this was supposed to be Dillashaw versus Renan Barão 2. And I believe Renan Barão had to pull out. I don't remember why. But Soto came in on short notice. And he put up a good fight. I mean, he got to round 5 with TJ Dillashaw. He caught TJ a couple times. He gave him a black eye. But TJ, like I said, in this era, he was different. He was a different monster in this era. This is his prime. He moved incredibly well. His boxing was great. He was just so fast, and he had great cardio. And he just put the work on Soto in the late rounds and early rounds, to be honest. And he had an amazing head kick to TKO him. Like I said, it was one of the stupidest, I'm not going to say it was stupid because he got concussed, but it was one of the funniest head kicks I've seen. At least the reaction from Soto was. And honestly, I don't have much to say that was great about this fight, but I don't have much to say that was bad about it. But like I said, I don't want to critique too heavily and be like, oh, nothing's an instant classic, but it's like, when I feel just very neutral about a fight, I just put it at all right. So I'm going to put this fight also at all right. Mostly because we already felt like it was going to win. Dillashaw was a huge favorite in this fight. And it kind of felt like that in the fight. It kind of felt like he was just dominant in the fight. And there wasn't anything great about the fight besides the head kick, besides the finish, in my opinion. Now this fight, I had to watch this fight in Spanish. Demetrius Johnson versus Chris Carriazo. It's alright. It's alright. I don't remember who it was supposed to be, but I'm pretty sure Carriazo was on short notice. He was the number 8 contender. Demetrius Johnson's opponent pulled out. I don't remember who it was, though. But Carriazo stepped in. I mean, he put up a good first round, and then in the second, it's just... Demetrius Johnson was very... This fight was very grappling based, I want to say. Obviously, DJ had some good striking moments because it's DJ. He's really the best. But this fight had really good grappling moments. And DJ, I want to say this is one of the like slickest finishes I've seen, or I guess submissions, not really finish. One of the slickest like submissions I've seen where he set up a great straight armbar, and I couldn't see it because of the angle, but I'm very sure he had a really quick transition to a Kimura. And there's not much to talk about this fight. This fight wasn't long. Great grappling from DJ. It's DJ, but I mean the opponent he was fighting against a short notice number 8 contender. So, all right, it wasn't a war. DJ was very clear to win this fight. And, I mean, he just proved it. There's not much to say about this fight either. Now, this one. Aldo Mendes, too. This fight was amazing. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't watch the Aldo Mendes, the first one, but I will after this for sure. All I know is he got kneed in the head. That's all I know is one of the fastest knees, cleanest knees I've seen. This fight was a war. I think out of all the fights I've watched, at least of 2014, this is my favorite fight by far. I'm going to put it above Head and Brow just because this fight had everything. Jose Aldo, amazing. He just knocked out Chad Mendes. He just knocked out Chad Mendes the fight before. And people were thinking, okay, Jose Aldo's going to do the exact same thing. And then Chad Mendes goes out there, rocks him in the first round. Rocks him in the first, rocks him in the second, landing clean. Like I said, these guys just have amazing movement. They're fast, they're strong, especially Chad Mendes. And this fight was great. This fight was fucking amazing. So first 2 rounds, Chad Mendes won, in my opinion. I will say, right, maybe controversial, I thought Chad Mendes won this fight. I really did. I thought Chad Mendes, to my knowledge, if I remember correctly, he won the first, he won the second, he won the fifth. Very clearly. I mean, the fifth's a little debatable. No, not the fifth. The first is very debatable. But I thought he for sure won the second and fifth. And it's kind of crazy because if you remember at the end of the round, way after the bell, by the way, really dirty, Jose Aldo hits him for 1-2 way after the bell and almost knocks him out. So for Chad Mendes, you know, people thought it was over. People thought, okay, Jose Aldo, he's just going to finish him. Dirty shot, but they're not going to do anything about it. They should have taken a point. They really should have taken a point away from Jose Aldo after that. But, I mean, Chad Mendes, he should have got finished in that second round. At least that's what people were thinking. That's what I was thinking, because I haven't watched this fight before. And he just comes out. He wins the second round. He's landing amazing on Aldo. You know, when a champion's been dominant so long, there's usually a performance in there where they look human. They look like they can be beat, and they look like they have a clear weakness. That was this fight. Chad Mendes, he put the pressure on him. He rocked Jose Aldo. He hit him with great leg kicks, however, some were checked. He wasn't able to wrestle against Jose Aldo, but he was able to stall. And he gave Jose Aldo some major problems on the feet. This was an amazing performance by Chad Mendes. I thought he won the first, second, and fifth. But I could be like, okay, if you wanted to argue with me saying Jose Aldo won the first, third, and fourth, okay. The first was a toss-up in my opinion. I gave it to Mendes because obviously the strikes after the bell from Aldo that almost knocked out Mendes doesn't count. That's not part of the round. Saying 4-1 Jose Aldo unanimously in the decision, how do all 3 of the judges say 4-1 Aldo? Maybe I'm tweaking. Maybe it was 4-1 Aldo and Chad Mendes got dominated and I just don't remember. But I had Chad Mendes winning 2-3. Like I said, maybe I'm tweaking. I'm going to have to rewatch it. I thought Chad Mendes he didn't clearly win 2-3, but at least he lost 2-3. I thought he won. Either way, I'm not mad about the decision. Great fight. And Chad Mendes, man, he's a monster. If you put this Chad Mendes against featherweights right now, if you put this Chad Mendes against like Diego Lopez, against really a lot of people in the top 10 of featherweight, I would say this Chad Mendes wins. This guy was a fucking monster on this night. Jose Aldo's for sure on steroids, by the way. If you look at this fight, this man was... He was ripped. He was fucking... he was juicing out of his mind. He looked insane this fight. And I love that the commentator was saying, oh, Jose Aldo, he's a big featherweight. Surely he goes to lightweight after this. And knowing what I know now that he goes to bantamweight and does great, it's kind of funny. But this was a great war, instant classic. Probably one of my favorite fights of all time. Honestly, I couldn't take my eyes off this fight. It was just amazing. Every second it felt like someone could get knocked out. And I highly recommend you watch this fight if you haven't. I just love this fight. But like I said, I think Chad Mendes won 3-2. Let me know in the comments if I'm tweaking. So far, 2014 is a pretty good year, man. Nothing's bad. Nothing's women's MMA bad. And nothing's unwatchable, so... I'm liking 2014 so far. Verdum versus Hunt. I'm going to put this in good. In my opinion, not great. However, the reason I'm saying it's not great is because this was short notice. To my knowledge, it's supposed to be Verdum versus Velasquez, Cain Velasquez. And it was supposed to be for the actual, undisputed title. However, it's an interim title. Cain Velasquez got injured. And Hunt filled in. And when I think about Hunt, Mark Hunt was one of my favorite fighters for a long time. I've never actually seen this fight. I've never heard of this fight. I've never seen this fight until now. And I didn't think he would do that good. I thought, okay, surely Verdum submits him eventually. Surely he just takes him down. Mark Hunt looked great in this fight. He looked great. I know he got finished in the second round, but in the first round he looked great. Clearly won it. And he knocked him down, or I don't believe he knocked him down, but he rocked Verdum multiple times. He knocked him down once, my bad. He knocked him down once, I believe in the first minute. He let him back up, because obviously it's Verdum. Verdum's amazing on the ground. And Mark Hunt doesn't happen to be great on the ground. He lets him up, and he just makes him a bitch. He just starts throwing punches over and over again, rocking him every single punch he throws. He basically rocks him. And Verdum is very agile. At heavyweight, he tries throwing leg kicks or head kicks, and Hunt is just blocking them. And it really just felt like Hunt was going to pull off a really big upset win. He looked great on short notice. He looked great. And then he's doing good in the second round. He's doing all right. But Verdum, knowing to be a very heavy grappling base, shoots a takedown. He feints a takedown at Mark Hunt. Mark Hunt reacts, and then he just comes up and gets kneed in the face. Cleanest knee. Very clean knee. Very great transition. And then he TKOs Mark Hunt. I knew Verdum was going to win this fight because I remember Verdum versus Stipe Miocic, and I'm like, okay, I knew Verdum was going to win this fight. However, like I said, I didn't think Mark Hunt would have this great of a performance. I'm definitely putting it in good. Because it really, if you watch the first round, it felt like Mark Hunt was going to win this fight. Mark Hunt dominated the first round to the point where you could be like, okay, he's going to knock Verdum out any second. He's about to knock him out, and he could finish the fight at any time. That's how it felt in the first round. Second round, Verdum, like I said, just great shooting. That's how you use feints. Fakes a takedown, and then comes back up with a knee when Mark Hunt tries sprawling it. That's how you use it as a grappler. It was a good fight. It was a fun fight. And the last fight of 2014, the last pay-per-view main event, Robbie Lawler versus Johnny Hendricks 2. I will say, right? I'm not going to put this above the first fight. I think this fight was good. Well, I think this fight was great, actually. I'm not going to put it in good because I think it was above, Faber Brow. I think it was above the fights that I put in good. So, I'm going to put it in great. I don't think it was as good as the first fight. Purely because there was just so much stalling. There was so much fucking stalling in this fight. You'll know what I'm talking about. Watch the 5th, 4th, and I think the 2nd or 3rd. Like I said, Johnny Hendricks, his main strat, the main way you know he's tired is he'll shoot a takedown, and he just won't do anything. Robbie Lawler, amazing at defending takedowns. And there was times where Robbie Lawler would defend a takedown, his back's on the fence, and he's just beating the fuck out of Hendricks because Hendricks is he's just holding. He's just holding him, He has his head right here, and it's like, are they gonna break it up? They do a really good job of breaking it up. One thing I have noticed about this is in 2014 they don't care. They'll break that shit up if nothing's happening. They don't do that now. They don't. They're very lenient now. And you could say Johnny Hendricks. You could say he won the second fight, and I'm be like, okay, I think he won 3-2. But it's the same as the last fight. I could see you saying Robbie Lawler won. I don't think Robbie Lawler won the first fight at all, by the way. Obviously, I think it was a very clear 3-2. However, this fight was kind of a 50-50 because you're like, okay, Johnny Walker. I said fucking Johnny Walker. Johnny Hendricks is controlling a majority of the fight. However, he's getting beat up. The moments for Lawler were very big moments for Lawler. And it happened after the second round. It's Lawler. Lawler has that heart. He has great heart. He showed it in this fight. And while I don't think this fight's as good as the first one, I think it's still as great. I think it's still great compared to other fights. Also, the poster is very cool. It's the same thing that you saw from the first fight. It was just brawling. Both these guys had their moments. Both these guys were hurt. Robbie Lawler landed an amazing front kick on Hendricks. Hendricks' chin is fucking amazing. I know he's on roids. I know Johnny Hendricks is on roids. His chin is fucking amazing, bro. He got hit with so much, elbowed with so much, and he was fine. Obviously, he wasn't fine, but he wasn't finished. He didn't look like he was giving up. I will say, with all the stalling that Johnny Hendricks did, he's very lucky this fight wasn't stopped. Because he would just stall, hold, and Robbie Lawler's just beating the shit out of him in the 4th and 5th round. He's very lucky this fight was not stopped. Because he just didn't do anything. He just accepted a bunch of hits for like 30 seconds at a time. And while I do believe that Johnny Hendricks had more control in this fight, for sure, and maybe score-wise won more rounds, I think the moments from Robbie Lawler were just big enough to the point where you can just give it to him. Which they did. I don't think it was 4-1. I heard 3-2 Hendricks, 3-2 Lawler. And I'm like, okay, I don't know who wins this fight. I'm genuinely not sure. And then they give it 4-1 Lawler. It's not a 4-1. This was not a 4-1 performance. But still an amazing fight. Like I said, these two people, when these guys fight, they're like the same person. They have a lot of heart, competitive wrestling. They have that mindset that competitive mindset that gets put into you at a young age. It was great. I enjoyed both of these fights very much, and that's why they're both great. But they don't have that one moment. They don't have that thing that just puts it in instant classic. You know that thing where it's like, it's undescribable, but you're like, holy shit. At one point you're just like, I can't believe I saw that. That's what makes instant classics. This fight was meant to be a knockout. Both of these fights were meant to be knockouts. And it's kind of what you expected from both of these fights. That's the only reason it's not an instant classic. All things considered, 2014 was pretty good, man. 2014 was pretty good. There's not a fight I hate on here. There's not a fight where I'm like, okay, I'm never going to rewatch this, but there's some mid. There is some mid for sure. Really the most mid to me is probably the John Jones fight, just because it's 4 rounds of John Jones, you know what I'm saying? But I like 2014. I will be doing 10 parts of this because it's a lot to rank. It really is. I gotta watch the 12 fights, and I gotta rank the 12 fights. Well, it's not a lot, and I could probably get it done in a day if I really wanted to. I'm young, bro. I got shit to do. I got shit to do, man. I don't really get anything out of this yet. So this is really just a hobby to me. But yeah, I'll be doing 2015 next. Like I said, if you don't agree with any of this, let me know. I want to hear your thoughts on it. Like I said, I wasn't around at this time. At least as an MMA fan. I remember how some of these fights happen, but I've never seen them. So this is really just a first time reaction to a lot of these fights. And My favorite fight, obviously, from this was Aldo Mendes. I will be adding to this tier list. I want to say at least once a week, because I don't know if I'll be able to do a part every week, or I don't know if I'll be able to do 2 parts a week, but at least once a week I'll add to this. And I really enjoyed this. So if you want to see more, I make daily content, or I try to do daily content. If I can't, then just assume I'm doing something. But if you want to see more, like, subscribe. I really appreciate all the support, and like I said, I'm gonna continue doing this because I found this very fun. So I appreciate everything that people give to me.